All right, let's talk about something that's on pretty much everyone's plate. Carbohydrates. They're everywhere, but what are they really? We're going to break it all down today.
So, let's start with a little thought experiment. Picture a slice of bread, a baked potato, and just a plain old spoonful of sugar. I mean, they seem pretty different, don't they? But what if I told you that deep down, chemically, they share a huge secret?
Yep, that's the connection. The fundamental thing that gives them their energy is the carbohydrate. It's the fuel hiding in plain sight in so many of our foods.
Okay, so what's the official definition? Well, a carbohydrate is one of the main nutrient groups, and its number one job, its whole reason for being, is to give your body energy. You can pretty much think of them as the high-octane fuel for your body's engine.
Now, to really wrap your head around how they work, let's use a little analogy. Imagine carbohydrates are made of tiny building blocks, kind of like Lego bricks. And the way these little sugar bricks are snapped together, well, that changes absolutely everything.
So let's start at the very beginning, with the smallest possible piece, the single individual brick that every other carb is built from.
And that single unit has a name, a monosaccharide. The name actually tells you everything you need to know. Mono is Greek for one, and saccharide means sugar. So it's literally a one-sugar unit. It's the simplest form a carb can possibly take.
And of all the monosaccharides, there's one that's a total rock star. Glucose. This one's the real VIP. It's the main fuel that your cells absolutely love to burn for energy, and it's the exact sugar that cruises through your bloodstream to power, well, everything.
Okay, so we've got our single Lego brick, the monosaccharide. But what happens when we start connecting them? This is where it starts to get really, really interesting.
It's a pretty straightforward process, actually. You start with just one unit, that's your monosaccharide, snap two of them together, and suddenly you've got a disaccharide, and when you link a ton of them together into a long, complex chain, boom, you've got a polysaccharide.
Let's zero in on that middle step. A disaccharide, di just means two, right, is simply a pair of those sugar building blocks joined at the hip. You know the regular white sugar you'd put in your tea or coffee? That's sucrose, and it's a perfect example of a disaccharide.
And then we get to the heavyweights of the carb world, the polysaccharides. Poly, of course, means many. And we're not just talking a few. We're talking about long, sprawling chains of hundreds or even thousands of these sugar units all linked together.
So why do we care about all this mono, di, poly business? Well, because this entire structure, whether it's one block, two blocks, or a giant chain, is the key to understanding terms you've definitely heard before, simple versus complex carbs.
And this right here just lays it all out perfectly. Simple carbs, those are your monosaccharides and disaccharides. Since they're so small and simple, your body can break them down super fast, which gives you that quick hit of energy. But complex carbs, the polysaccharides, they're like a big tangled necklace. Your body has to slowly and carefully unravel it, which means you get a much slower, more steady, sustained release of energy.
So let's just pull all these threads together for a second and look at the big picture of why this whole building block idea is so incredibly important.
And this chart just makes it all click. You see the simple carbs, just one or two units, are things like the glucose you find in fruit and honey, or the sucrose that is table sugar. And the complex carbs, with their many units, are the starches we find in foods like potatoes and bread. See? It all comes back to how many blocks you have.
So here's the bottom line. If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that the physical structure of a carb, is it a single brick, a pair of bricks, or a giant wall of bricks, that's what tells your body how to use it for fuel. Simple structure equals fast energy. Complex structure equals slow, steady energy. It's really that elegant.
Because at the end of the day, no matter what kind of carb you start with, the goal is always the same. Your body's mission is to break it all down into that key building block, glucose, because that is the universal fuel that makes all of our cells go.
So we've seen how these amazing energy sources are built up, from a single sugar unit into these massive, complex chains. But it kind of leaves you with a really cool question, doesn't it? How on earth does our body perform the reverse magic trick, breaking those huge chains all the way back down again to get the energy it needs? Well, that's a story for another day. Thanks for tuning in.